If you feel lost, drained, or like life just simply isn't flowing, it's because your spirit just might be out of alignment. My name is Peter Abundant, aka Dr. Abundant, PhD and ordained minister of metaphysical sciences, the study of spirituality. I'm also the author of The Enlightened Shadow and Spiritual, Not Religious, both available on Amazon and Audible. Misalignment. What is spiritual misalignment? Well, ultimately, we really want to understand that you are always in alignment. The question is, what kind of path are you going to take? What exactly are you going to experience? And depending on your level of consciousness, level of awareness, that is essentially going to determine what experiences you have along this path of what we call self-realization or even enlightenment. So you can take a straight path of, going from point A to point B, or you can take the path of zigzags and circles and loops and, going through harsh terrain. Okay. Now, when we are talking about misalignment, we're really talking about the path of really just going all over the place, the path of chaos, the path of the unknown, randomness, moving through life in a way that makes you feel like you have no sense of control. So we're talking about living out of sync, living out of sync with your true self, your divine nature. It is almost like you are resisting this true self, resisting your divine nature. But eventually, we all come to the realization, the understanding, the acceptance, the embrace of this divine nature. It can happen in this lifetime. It can happen in another lifetime. It can happen in this realm. It can happen in another realm, but it's sure to happen. So the things that you're going to experience when you are taking this path of misalignment is lots of confusion, anxiety, right? A constant sense of struggle, survival mode, constantly feeling like you're disconnected with yourself and with everything else around you. Now, yes, even when you are on the conscious path and you are taking the straight path as straight as you possibly can, right? You are probably going to experience some of these feelings anyway. But when your path is misaligned, it is going to be the predominant experience that you're going to have throughout your life until you actually align yourself. So what are the dangers of staying misaligned? Essentially, you're going to attract everything that you don't want. Now, the tricky thing about it is you are attracting things, right? You are practicing your nature to create, to materialize, to manifest. That is something you cannot shut off. The issue, though, is you are not tapping into mastering or remastering those skills, that mindset, that understanding. You are again roaming the world, not being conscious that you are responsible. You should be accountable for exactly what it is that you want. And you should be intentionally, purposefully moving in that direction, even if you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Just simply having the intention, the focus that this is what you want to create, you desire, that's good enough. That's all you really need. Because along the path, you will learn and amass the skills, the access, the people, right, that you need to actually materialize that thing. But most times when we are misaligned, we're not in the understanding of this, right? We cannot conceptualize the idea that we are in control. And so you are just focusing on the don't wants because that is what you are constantly experiencing, because you do not know that you get to create a life that you do want, that you do desire. So you're going to attract a lot of things that you don't want. You're going to feel like the things that you don't want are just the way it is, right? You're going to think that life is just throwing itself at you, throwing things at you, that life is against you, that the universe, that the world is against you, that God is against you, and that for some reason you're being punished. You may be feeling like you're being punished simply for existing, but that's not the case. The punishment is because there is a sense of lack in your understanding as to who you are, your understanding of consciousness, your understanding of focus, intention. Okay. So you repeat constantly, right? Painful cycles over and over and over again. Patterns are going to repeat. Toxic relationships, terrible jobs, right? Constantly needing to move from one place to another without being able to get steady and stable in one space, ups and downs of emotions, whether it be, feeling good one day and then feeling completely depressed the next day and constantly going up and down that cycle. Now, this is because you are not learning what it is you needed to learn, what it is you need to learn. You are constantly pushing it off as if it is something that is thrown at you for whatever reason, just because you are you. You're not understanding that it is thrown at you because it is something that you are needing to learn from it. Now, let's get this clear. You and the universe are not separate from one another. You and God are not separate from one another. You are in fact one. Okay. Yes, God is greater than you, but you are still one with that entity, with that essence, with the universe. So what does that mean? That means that all the things that you are experiencing, that you think God is throwing at you, punishing you, right? That the universe is against you. It's actually yourself trying to awaken you. Okay. It's trying to awaken you to the reality of who you are, to the understanding that you are one with that. And therefore, once you acknowledge these patterns, right? Once you acknowledge these painful cycles and you pay attention and ask yourself, why do I keep experiencing the same thing over and over and over again? What is it about me that I have to shift, change, and transform? Then you begin to take ownership of this experience called life. You begin to take ownership of the life that you actually wish to create. You begin to take ownership of the things that you actually desire to attract. So it's about ownership. Okay. So another danger when it comes to being misaligned is this feeling of powerlessness, feeling scattered, right? Feeling unfulfilled because you're not taking ownership. You think that for many of us, we're walking, roaming, existing in life, thinking that a beautiful experience is simply just supposed to happen, right? But though life in itself is beautiful, existing in itself is beautiful, the only way to actually experience that is by being mindful about your perspective, being mindful and intentional about being aware of the beauty that exists around you, that exists within you, that exists everywhere, that is part of you. You see? So you feel the sense of powerless because you are not aligned with truth. You feel a sense of being scattered because you're not focused in on your purpose to self-realize. Okay. You feel unfulfilled because you are not allowing yourself to follow your purpose, follow your passions, your curiosities. You're not following the breadcrumbs to your fulfillment. You're just probably paying attention to what other people are doing and then trying that. Actually thinking that if I get what they have, then I'll be as happy as they appear, not realizing that they're probably not even happy in the first place. So you really have to understand the importance of being authentic in doing what it is that you want to do and then following that. You see, causes of spiritual misalignment are things like people pleasing, right? Ignoring your intuition, chasing external validation, or even suppressing your emotions. We think that we have to look a certain way, appear a certain way to be accepted in society, to be accepted in our culture, in our family, amongst friends, amongst coworkers. It's okay to consider other people, to think about other people, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, but not at the expense of losing oneself. So you must be mindful to put your desires, your wants first from an authentic place. And then after that, whatever you have left over, you provide a space for other people to feel safe, to, comfort them, to cultivate a connection, a relationship of being of service to other people. We have to be mindful about this idea of being of service of others. We have to make sure that we're not burning ourselves out doing so or neglecting self to do so. It is very important. It is very powerful, of course, to be of service to others, help people. And that does add a sense of fulfillment back toward oneself. But if you are constantly doing it and not checking in with yourself as far as what you need, being still, spending time with yourself, being of service to yourself, then eventually the things that you are providing to others are going to eventually be extinguished, right? They're going to actually dissolve, fall away, empty, So you have to understand that people pleasing, though there is value in being of service of people, do not seek to please people. That is their job, just like it is your job and only your job to actually please yourself. When it comes to your intuition, you must acknowledge that there are two minds that exist within you, right? There is the cerebral mind, and then there is the intuitive mind, which is more so around the gut area, the stomach, right? You feel it. You feel nervous. You feel a sense of, just ickiness, maybe. Maybe you feel excitement, right? You feel a sense of attraction to do a certain thing, to randomly make a different turn, If you're going home, you decide, what, instead of going right like I do every single day, I'm going to go left here. I'm going to just take a detour, Follow that intuition. If you speak with somebody and based on other people's appearance or other people's opinion, they may look at that person and say, oh, I wouldn't talk to them. They look crazy. But something within you connects with that person and says, you know what, this person probably just needs somebody to talk to, and that can make a big difference and shift in their life and even affect you because they can then in return support you in some way because you looked out for them. So following your intuition is very, very important. Following that spiritual mind is imperative. When you're not following that and you're just focusing on the cerebral aspect, you're just focusing on logic and only logic alone, then you kind of miss the point of connecting with oneself. You miss the point of connecting with that spiritual aspect of yourself, that divine essence. Because you're neglecting it, you're pushing it off. Remember, the universe consists of contrasts. Two things that seem to be opposing, but are actually just two sides of the spectrum. Same thing with your mind, right? You have the cerebral mind, then you have this intuitive spiritual mind, your gut. You have to figure out how to use them both at the same time to bring balance to your life, to your experiences, to your existence, to your beingness. Okay. Be mindful not to chase the external validation. Don't look for people's approval. Who cares? Their approval has literally nothing to do with your fulfillment. You may think so initially in the beginning. Oh, okay, cool. This person likes this. This person likes me. But then what does that really do for you? Doesn't really do anything for you, especially if you're not being authentic with yourself. Now, if you're being authentic with yourself, then great. That's a cherry on top. Somebody likes you. Okay. But the most important thing is that you are authentic and you validate your own self. Suppressing your emotions. That is a big mistake that we make and causes this misalignment with ourselves. We think that emotions are weak. We think that emotions, particularly the negative emotions, are something that we shouldn't feel, but they have a purpose. You have to understand that emotions are a fuel source, right? They are the motivating factor, the thing that is going to animate you to actually move and create, right? Create change, create a particular goal, outcome, desire, dream. Sometimes anger is going to be the catalyst to get you to actually make a change, right? You're at a job that you can't stand. Finally, something happens. You just can't take it no more. You quit, right? Anger. But then you decide, you know what? I'm going to start my own business. Or I'm just going to simply make sure I find a better job that is more fulfilling, that respects me better, that treats me better. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to create that space for myself, whether it be creating my own business or whether it be just simply finding another job. So you have to be mindful that it's really about recognizing that emotions are the thing that actually moves you forward and propels you forward in creating change, creating transformation, creating what you desire. So always focus on what you desire. Use those emotions practically, right? Don't just let the emotions blow up without recognizing that there should be an intention with these emotions. There should be a purpose. Everything you do should be grounded in an intention. What am I doing? What is the purpose behind this? Is this actually going to serve me? Either serve me with pleasure in the moment or serve me with achieving a goal, right? Moving forward. Very important. Another thing that people do when it comes to being misaligned is that they are living in fear instead of in faith, right? They are scared to make moves because they, for some reason, believe that it is not going to work out. But the only thing that's going to guarantee something that you want is not going to work out is you actually quitting. That is the only thing that's going to guarantee it. But if you are one of faith within yourself and that divine power, that creator within you, and you are understanding that, hey, this is an idea that I feel will bring me great satisfaction and fulfillment and joy, then I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to materialize it. I'm going to create it. You see, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. If you recognize that this is potentially connected with your purpose, then what other choice do you have? Right? Are you not going to live according to your purpose? That's not even possible. All right. So recognize that instead of living from a place of fear, recognize that you had this desire, this dream, this purpose in your mind for a reason because it is meant for you to achieve it. So have faith in yourself. Move forward in a space of faith that this is for you. And even if there is, yes, a slight chance that that particular idea in itself may not be your purpose, the fact that you are pursuing this idea, okay, is actually possibly the thing that is going to lead you to the actual purpose, you see? So it can be simply just a way of just getting you to move in a certain direction and have faith in that. Have faith in the fact that, hey, I have an idea. I'm going to pursue this idea. Now, whether the idea works or not, that depends on you, and it depends on the fact that, okay, this idea in itself may not be the purpose, but the idea that got you to actually get moving will in fact align you with purpose. So you have to have faith in that as well. That is part of the journey, you see. So how to align spiritually is very important. Stillness is key. Stillness is what is always going to bring you back to where you're supposed to be in terms of feeling that way, feeling like, okay, I'm good. Remember, we're always good, right? The reality is we're always where we're supposed to be. The problem, though, is the mind starts to play tricks on us and tells us that we're not. The mind starts to focus on things like fear, right? The mind tends to compare oneself to other people, right? That's where the ego kind of gets involved and starts playing its game. Separation. If you are not mindful about that, then you're going to create this misalignment. But in order for you to get back into alignment, you have to understand that you are always in alignment. You see, the idea of misalignment is really an illusion. It really doesn't exist, right? It is as false as the ego itself. Consciousness is what is truth. So with that said, you are always, right, being led by consciousness, whether you acknowledge it or realize it or not. The issue is when you don't realize it, then you are living in this false sense of reality by the ego, okay? Thus creating this sense of misalignment. When you get into stillness through things like meditation, reflection, contemplation, right? Grounding. When you get into those things, breath work, and I'm not talking about complicated techniques. I'm simply talking about taking time out, go somewhere isolated, secluded, sit with yourself, close everything, and just be with yourself for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The longer, the better. And just be still. And just think. Now, I'm not saying think about a problem, think about a situation, worry or be concerned, but just think. And here's the trick. Observe your thoughts. Then when you start observing your thoughts, recognize that you are observing your thoughts. So the you that is observing the thoughts is your true self. That is your consciousness. The thoughts are simply thoughts. So when you start to create that separation, that's from being stillness, from being still, then you begin to understand this reality of alignment and spirituality. Okay. So you have to reconnect with your values, reconnect with your intuition, reconnect with that divine identity. That's what this is about. So if you're feeling misaligned, you have to let go of all the things that are absolutely not true for your spirit, for your soul, for your consciousness. You have to let go of all that and recognize who you truly are. Recognize that you are always truly in alignment. Misalignment is actually a false sense of reality. It is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. Okay? So move forward with faith, move forward following your intuition, be as authentic as you can possibly be from moment to moment. And then you will recognize that misalignment isn't real and that alignment is your absolute truth. If this resonated with you, please take time today and just listen within yourself. Sit with yourself. You already had the answers, okay? Because you are the source, right? The source is who you are. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, and get access to this free ebook, The Power Within. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.